What's up guys, Brandon here from Gearist. Today we're going to be taking a look at the LunarTempo 2 from the Swoosh Nike. Of all the shoes that have been on my feet over the past few years, not a single one of them has been with Nike's Lunarlon foam setup. Some of that has been time, some of that has been timing, and some of that has simply been what Nike has sent our way. However, I am very excited today to get into this shoe and tell you guys what our first full-on test of a Lunarlon shoe is like. So without any further ado, let's talk about the Nike LunarTempo 2. The outsole of the Nike LunarTempo 2 is meant to provide a great full contact, as you can see there, full contact outsole with good ground feel. It's actually pretty straightforward and simple with this setup of blocks, which you can see there. These are all called waffle pistons. Now the darker areas that you can see are carbon rubber and the rest of it is exposed lunar foam. As you can see, we've got a little extension in the heel up the lateral side for those people that are going to land kind of in the rear foot there and more on the lateral side of the shoe. Moving into the forefoot, you can see that those waffle piston pods there, they extend everywhere from the metatarsal heads forward and including one that actually drops back here kind of on the lateral side again because 99.99% of people kind of land a little bit on the lateral side of that shoe. Apart from that, everything on the bottom of the shoe is dominated by Lunarlon foam. The LunarTempo 2 is really nicely flexible and part of that is these nice flex grooves in between those pods, which you can see there. They kind of go up into the midsole since the midsole is pretty inextricably linked to the outsole in this shoe. Now first, the traction of the shoe I found to be really solid. I didn't run on it in snow or anything like that, but in rain and on dry pavement, it was really good. And I think much of that is attributed to the fact that it kind of can really bend and flex with the foot and kind of get down into whatever pavement you're running on. In terms of durability, there's a little bit of a dichotomy that since I put up this written review that I've come across. The first thing is that there's pretty normal wear, I would say. For about 40 miles, you can see there's a little bit of wear here on the lateral side right there. These are all pretty typical things. There's nothing that's super accelerated. However, people in certain running shoe circles, of which I am a part, have mentioned that they have noticed really accelerated wear on this. At this point, I don't notice that. However, if these guys are saying that they're only getting about 200 miles, 250 miles max out of this, then I have a tendency to believe them. So just be sure that if you're getting into a shoe, especially with this much exposed foam in the midsole and outsole rather, that you are really cleaning up your gait and not expecting yourself to, if you're kind of running into the ground or sliding on the ground or something like that, make sure that you're aware that you're probably going to burn through it more quickly than a full rubber shoe. Moving into the midsole of the shoe, as I mentioned at the outset of this review, this is my first experience in a full Lunarlon setup. Now, first of all, the midsole comes in at a 26 and 18 millimeter stack height for a net drop of 8 millimeters. This is a little bit higher than my ideal, which is 6 and under. However, I feel like it runs lower because it's just kind of nice cushy foam and gets out of your way. It feels again like it hovers around 4 probably. The big standout of the midsole of the shoe to me is the consistency of feel. And what I mean by that is that from front to back, I don't feel like I'm running through different densities of foam all over the place. Like sometimes you'll see shoes that are going to have a lateral crash pad in the heel, which actually translates up into the midfoot a little bit, and you can kind of feel that transition. In this case, it feels very, very consistent front to back, and I don't feel like there are other parts or materials that are trying to influence what my foot does. This also means that my foot is working really evenly across things, so I'm not really putting undue pressure on one part of my foot or another, which makes longer runs or more intense runs that much more comfortable and effective for me. Since we've gotten back into Nike running shoes in the past few years, one of the things that the Swoosh does extremely well is their uppers, and this is no different. Not only do they not rest on their laurels, but they keep driving to find what's new, what's better, and what's best, and to really set that bar. This shoe, as with the Nike Zoom Terra Kiger, the review of which you can see right here, is built entirely from an engineered mesh top to bottom. Functionally, this means that this mesh doesn't really need to have a support structure, as the mesh is that support structure. This means that they've taken and made it more dense in areas where it needs to be a little more durable, more open in areas where it needs to flex a little bit more, and overall given a very custom feel to this that's going to really adapt to the foot. It also helps to cut down on weight and keep some very nice clean lines on the shoe. Comparing this to version 1 of the shoe, which I did not test, but in reading and then looking at a pair of those shoes, the big change for the upper is the the interior booty. You may be able to see it. I'll try to show it to you guys right there. Basically, it's that this tongue goes into an interior booty, which is a second layer of mesh that underlies the top layer. Apart from that, it also goes for the entire front 2/3 of the shoe and also actually spills over into the back, into the heel counter there. So it's basically a fully encompassing internal booty. Now, on the one hand, what this does is it makes it, in my opinion, so you don't need to tighten down as hard. You don't feel like you need to tighten down as much because you've got this thing cradling and kind of hugging your foot. And the second thing is that it really affects the overall perception of fit in the shoe, which I find to be really, really nice. It did not compromise the breathability, in my opinion. It's still a very, very breathable shoe, and in cold weather, you are going to notice that. So if you are susceptible to cold in your feet, just be aware and maybe size up for thicker socks or something like that. Another similarity to the Nike Zoom Terra Hiker 3, which we took a look at earlier last year, is this double set of flywire cables, which you can see right here, which amount to the lacing system of this shoe. Not only do those really serve to kind of prop up and make it even more consistent with that internal booty, but they also actually help with fabric buckling because in this case, it's not just the flywire cables, it also goes through the throat there, as you can probably see. This again is going to make for a more consistent upper fit. It's going to keep any of that buckling fabric out of the way, not that there is any buckling fabric on this, and make once again for a really consistent feel. As for the foam on the collar and the tongue, it is ideal for me. They did a great job with this. You may know from reviews in the past that I tend to be a stickler and really want to see not too much, light too little. I want to be right there in the middle, and this is very much that way. It's very, very nice, very flexible where it needs to be, but then it also gets out of your way in the places where you don't want it to be overly puffy or anything like that, pushing the foot forward. Rounding out the upper of the LunarTempo 2 are some of the reflective elements that are here, including these big giant swooshes, which you can see on the side there, and kind of inlaid around the heel in this little perforated section, which is really cool reflective elements that are going to cover you on the heel of the shoe. Let's get into fit now, and I will say first that the rear 2/3 of this shoe fit me really, really well and are very comfortable. Number one, the heel counter, which isn't super stiff, is still well shaped, cradles the heel. Even when you want to put some agility in there, it really adapts to your foot very well. Moving into the midfoot, I really do like the way this fits. I really enjoy that flywire system that I've used in the Terra Hikers before. It really fits very nicely and adapts in this shoe very well again with that internal booty. Then there's the forefoot of this shoe. Now, the first thing that I should say is that I don't mind the way that this fits or feels in the forefoot, oddly. However, what I will say also is that my foot, which is very average, actually spills over the midsole a little bit. And I'll kind of show you what I mean. If I hold it like this and kind of press, that's what my foot looks like when it's in there, when it's fully splayed. It spills over that area a little bit. And while I did not notice it while running really until I looked down, I do question how it might affect the durability of the shoe. Also, this mesh does give a little bit of stretch, a little bit of give and customizable feel to the foot. However, there's not a ton of vertical space. I don't know why that is, and again, it's not a huge deal breaker or anything like that, but if you want to wiggle your toes around like way up, you're pretty much limited to right there. It just doesn't have much vertical space. Now, for the sizing of the shoe, it's interesting. So this is a size 11, which is what I typically wear. Fits perfectly fine to me. I'm very comfortable with that. No big deal, no worries at all. However, I find that it fits not a half size small, but like a quarter size small. So what I would encourage you to do if you're ordering online, obviously you need to find some place that is going to allow you to do exchanges or returns. And if you're at your local run shop, make sure that you get into a jog on a treadmill around the floor a little bit. Make sure you're really feeling exactly what's going on in that forefoot and that you're not going to be crowding yourself. Here and there, I've been known to refer to a shoe as quiet in terms of its ride, and that definitely applies to the LunarTempo 2. The front to back uniformity, feel, and the consistency with which that adapts to your foot is really very nice, and it just sounds quiet. I mean, it lands on the ground quiet. Ground feel is excellent. It just feels really nice underfoot. And while there is certainly cushioning there, it's not squishy or anything like that. And you certainly feel like there's a nice firm base underwriting all of that. And it just makes for a very adaptive feel, which is in turn very responsive. Now, with that said, what pace is this going to be good for? I've taken this shoe fast for me, and I've taken this shoe slow. And while it certainly rides nicely right in that slow range, you're kind of cruising along and just doing a recovery run or something, where it feels most comfortable to me is, wait for it, as as a tempo runner, hence the LunarTempo, get it? I feel like this shoe is one of those, if you want to go out and be in kind of your heart rate upper zone 3, this is, or kind of low zone 4, whatever, this is going to be great for that. It's going to be really great to go out and just kind of cruise at a higher speed where you're really kind of pushing that aerobic threshold and things like that. And what distance race or run is this good for? Well, for me, I think that I would stick to half marathons and under in this shoe. This is going to be a great half Ironman shoe, great triathlon shoe in general, anything under that half Ironman for me. But for you, if you want to go longer than that, go for it. I feel like that has to do with the training and how much you're willing to put up with any durability issues that you might find. This is a really solid shoe from Nike. And again, if you're one who's been avoiding Nike over the past few years, I really feel like you need to give them a second chance. They've come around to really cater to genuine runners out there. Yes, they still have the Air Max and things like that floating out there that aren't real running shoes, but then they've got stuff like this. They've got the Zoom Terra Kiger. They've got the Pegasus, which is in its 33rd or something edition like that now. These are all shoes that are really consistent, and I feel like if you're ignoring it because you don't like Nike or what have you, you might want to give it a second chance. This shoe right here, the LunarTempo 2, great feel, excellent ground feel, great for speed, great for recovery. The one thing that I mentioned, that fit or kind of the sizing may be a little bit wonky, but again, get a pair on your feet, see what it does in your foot. And the other thing that I would point out that is an advantage of this shoe is it actually comes in $10 cheaper, weirdly, than its predecessor. Its predecessor was $110. This right here comes in at $100, and if you want to check it out online, you can find some buy links down in our description below. Before we get to the question of the day, please don't forget to like and favorite this video, and please, please, please subscribe to our channels. Guys, we've hit 7,000 subscribers last year, and we want to hit way more this year, so subscribe to our channel. And now here's the question of the day. Generally, this is really something that we reserve for smaller brands out there that not everyone has run in, but we want to know what Nike running shoes you've run in and when. Have you been in a Pegasus all the way through the line? If so, let us know. Have you not touched Nikes for the past 5 or 10 years? We want to know that also. Leave your answers down in the comments section below. If you guys want to shoot us a note, please don't hesitate to do so by emailing info@gearist.com, and please follow us on all our social media outlets, which is basically everything /Gearist, with the exception of Twitter, which is /TheGearist, thanks to some kid in Vietnam who likes to squat on our name. Also, if you've got any questions for us about this review or anything else, don't forget to leave it in the comment section below, or just reach out to us. We'd be happy to answer and maybe even include you in our Ask Gearist segment. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we will see you next time.